pause me where you need clarity, where you need to ask a question. So you can just, say, please wait right there. But before we start, I would like us to hand this session over to God in prayer, and then we can get into it. Is that okay? Dear Father God, we come to your throne of grace, Lord, thanking you for this opportunity that we can gather here and talk about work, talk about the opportunities that, Lord, you are the one who actually ignites the interest, the thirst, the hunger in us so that we can pursue these things, so that we can make a difference in your vineyard. So therefore, I ask you, Lord, to lead us, prepare me as a speaker so that I can share a message that will then be transformative to those who are listening, and also share and also prepare them, Lord, so that the message that has been prepared can make a difference in their lives, not only their lives, but then other people's lives as well. I pray all of this in the mighty name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. I think that the subject or the topic is winning. Can I move this a bit? I want to move around. I'm that speaker that speaks as I'm walking. So the subject is winning at work. I think that's what the subject is, or work in a workplace. But I want to kind of sort of rephrase that to say it should be navigating the workspace using God's principles. I think that probably lands better. And I want to give a few caveats before I start. Right? What I'm going to share with you is anchored on effectively two critical things when you implement it. So we'll get to it. You have to be friends with feedback. You have to enjoy receiving feedback. That's the number one thing. So you gotta seek feedback every day as you kind of sort of put this model in place. Then the second one is that we can talk about this, and if you don't implement it, then it becomes a futile exercise. So you have to implement. So you get feedback, you implement, you course correct where you need to course correct, and then you implement. So you continue to do that so that you can continue to develop yourself. You'll soon understand what I'm talking about as I get to the presentation. And then again, this presentation is purely to just provide a navigational tool of growing your career with intention and highlight intention. Because what we often do is we get into workspaces, we are given assignments or tasks, and then we do the task to the best of our ability. And then in doing the task in the best of our ability, we think, I should get promotion or I should grow, right? And often when you do the tasks, sometimes you actually look at the task, you solve for it, but it's something short term. So you can't raise your head and be able to see things beyond what you're doing in front of you. So I'm going to help us to lift up our heads and start thinking strategically as we navigate our careers, right? So I'm sharing three Bible texts there. The first one is Habakkuk 2:2, which says, "Then the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it." So effectively, when you put stuff on paper, they land very differently as opposed to when you think about it and you want to implement it in your head, right? And then again, when you then communicate that, God says that whoever that is reading that, they'll help you make it or bring it to reality. So that's what I go by. And again, you'll understand what that, or how you can actually relate that text to what I'm going to talk about now. And then Jeremiah, this text has helped me a lot, because every day is not kosher. It's not nice. Sometimes you are going through, you are goisha, as they say, right? Things are tough. Like you had a plan. You thought you had this watertight thing, and all of a sudden things are collapsing. And your colleagues are watching, or people are watching, and you feel like your name is synonymous with failure, right? But then this verse here helps me to actually lift myself up, because of whatever the hurdle or whatever the challenge I'm going through. This is what God says about me, right? He says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." So when things are tough, I wake up, I recite this thing, or I read it, and I go to work. It helps me a lot. Then there's Philippians. I've got it here. So all these things it's Philippians. So I've got it here and this side, right? It says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." There will be times where you're thinking, Mount Everest is too large. I can't climb this thing. But God says, you're not alone. I'll go with you on the journey. All right? So please remember just these three as you navigate the path of work. So I have developed this thing called a stakeholder engagement model. And I've shared this with my good friend there. He was interviewing me the other day for YouTube for his, is it Advent Port? Yeah, Advent Port. So I shared this model. And I so wish that I got to know this model earlier in my career, because I would have navigated the world of corporate much more smartly, right? So what the model effectively tries and do is to effectively help you to sift out the noise that you deal with on a daily basis. I don't know if I can say the riff-raff. Is that the right thing to say? The pulpit. So it helps you to move things away. So the first thing, and also actually the model helps you to be promoted, in simple terms, to get promotion. You remember my opening statement was, seeing my picture there, don't think that this guy is so much into himself. It is just something that I took from my work thing. So this is part of my personal development plan, right? That I engage with my line on a regular basis. But what this model simplifies the world that I'm in. So I have, call it, 3 main pillars, or I can call them circles, right? So the first circle is around And again, you can apply this thing either in business, if you're running a business, or you can apply it in your day-to-day job, right? So I've got something, the first pillar is your value chain. Your value chain, these are the people that you deal with on a daily basis, right? The people that you engaging in executing whatever the assignment is, or whatever the goals or your KPIs are, right? So if, let's say, you are meant to, maybe let me give an example in my world, right? So I'm meant to drive a business that has to deliver a certain revenue per annum, right? And for me to then deliver that, I need to rely on certain key stakeholders that I need to deal with on a daily basis, right? So I need favor from, for example, credit guys that go and do the assessment of the types of transactions that I'm bringing in, country risk guys that need to do, country risk reviews for me, the operations team that needs to do the operational work around what I'm doing, the legal team that needs to help me draft my legal documents. I need to get support from compliance and so forth, right? So these people, I need to ensure that I am number one in their list. So when I make a call, can these people see me as somebody important enough for them? If I had a missed call, they'll call me back. So that's your litmus test, right? That's the litmus test of checking whether you bring in value to them or not. So you need to ask yourself that question, and that's why I was saying feedback has to be your friend. As you observe, as you ask. Yeah? So, and for that, you need to then craft it out for yourself and say, okay, short-term wise, it means that between now and the next 6 months, I do have maybe strong relationships here. Here, I don't need to do much. I've got maybe developing relationships here. Maybe I've had 2 coffee sessions with this person. It seems like we kind of sort of gel, but then I need them to be closer. So I need to strengthen that relationship, right? And then what are the weak relationships that I have in my circle? In terms of your value chain, right? The people that I assist you to execute on a daily basis, who are these people that you need to work on, and how do you need to work on, right? So you can even go and call a friend who's maybe closer to that person and say, look, man, I need you to say a word or two about me and that, and then maybe I'll follow that with maybe a coffee invite just to find out what they do or how can I assist them, right? So that's your day-to-day, and I call these people your promoters. Why? Because the people that you work with on a daily basis are the ones that actually bring about your promotion. We often think that promotion comes from the people at the top. It's not. It comes from the people that you deal on a daily basis with. Why? Because as you engage and you deal, you execute with them, they can't help but rave about you to their bosses. Right? They will say, this guy, best thing ever, because he or she is helping me to execute on my task on a daily basis. So that's your first layer that you need to look at, right? And you have to be so deliberate about it. You can't leave it to chance. Everyone there within the next 6 months, if you don't have it, they have to be your best friends, if I may put it simply like that. But then they can't be your best friend if you are not bringing value to them. You gotta be somebody that is about bringing value to them. So again, if you're running a business, what is your bread and butter? If you run a business, what are the requirements for your business to succeed? those people that support your business on a daily basis. Again, you can create something like this for that, right? To say, I need this particular advertising agency. I need that particular whatever marketing company, whatever it is, right? That supports your business on a daily basis to deliver. You have to do that. Then it helps you now to wake up with a level of intentionality, because now you're clear as to what you now need to be looking at, right? Unlike you going to work, you get in there, there's a task in front of you, you got to deliver on it. You kind of sort of finding way and you're hoping that you may land it fine, but then it's not strategic. You're not thinking about it properly. Yeah? So that's the first layer, right? So that's short term, between now and 6 months. Then now there's a second layer to that, because you need to solidify this thing, right? The second layer to that is what I call the influencers, right? Not the influencers that you know. The influencers, the people that make decisions for the businesses that are helping you to deliver. So these are the heads of the businesses, right? If you're working in a corporate environment. Again, and because the influencers, they're not easy to really get into their calendars or into their diary. So you got to give yourself a bit of time. So I'm saying from a medium-term perspective, you look at 6 months to 12 months so that you can solidify those relationships with them. So if you've done your work on layer 1 or level 1 that I spoke about now, to get into the diaries of these guys becomes easy, because of the guys at the bottom are talking about you in a positive way. Right now you are able to go to the head of the business. So for example, for me, by the way, this is the real thing for me, right? This is what I'm working with now. I've just changed it. The colors, there's red colors. It's more clearer on my one, but anyway, I think you get the essence of it. I need to ensure that the senior people who are above me are my friends as well. But then I need to make sure that the people that I work with around here, they're able to sponsor me through them speaking about me to their bosses. But again, I then need to go and set up time with these guys with intention. But I'll tell you how also some of the things that you can apply in getting into these guys' diaries as well. But you gotta lay the foundation. You gotta do your job exceptionally well and go beyond the call of duty that you have, so that these guys can take you serious. Because of their biggest currency is time. So for them to then say, I'm going to dedicate time to this person, you must have done something for them to give you 30 minutes or an hour. And these are the guys then, when the first layer has spoken to them about you, they sit for, call it C checks, we call them C checks, or consistency checks, where we then sit down and we talk about the entire business to say, we've got this person in this department, that person in that department, that person, and we want to then identify our talent in our business. These are the people, right? And then we want to promote. These guys here, when I bring up your name, for example, if I'm your sponsor, I bring up your name, I'm sitting in that room, and no one knows you, you're not getting the promotion. That's a fact. Or all of them know you, but one says, no, I'm not sure. You're not getting it. Because what we tend to forget is that the entire organization, you're not competing with the people in your division. You're competing with people in the entire business. Right? So they will come above you and you're not going to get the promotion. Because if they mention a name and then nobody counters that, then that's the person who's getting the promotion, because they've got one over you. So I'm inviting you guys into some of the boardroom discussions that you often most people don't know about, right? So you gotta work on these relationships, but again, like I said, their biggest currency is time. Make sure that your people at the bottom say the right things about you, because their worry is that, is this person contributing to the business, solving the problems that I'm dealing with? Are they helping me to deal the pain that I'm dealing with? So that's that. And here you're still within the organization. Here you're still within the organization. Then the third layer, I call them the directors or the advisors, right? So this is 1 to 5 years in terms of building those relationships and strengthening them. So these guys don't have to be people within your organization. They don't need to be. So for example, if you know people that outside the business that are they're running companies and all of that, they become your sounding boards, right? When you're dealing a complex issue in the organization, you can't necessarily discuss it internally because maybe you might be viewed in a particular way. It allows you to go outside and have a conversation with somebody senior who knows how to run a business. They know strategic issues and so forth. They can then guide you. But then again, also their biggest currency here is what? Time. So, for example, I have here I've got some people, I've taken them out, some I've got, but there are people in this church that I go to. Sometimes I would have a session on a Sunday morning and say, hey, I'm dealing this particular issue. I know you run business. Strategic issues are similar, it's just different industries, right? They will then guide you and help you navigate the landscape. And by the way, these guys are the ones that also help you expand your presence in the industry. So if I've got a friend and he sees me as somebody that, he wants to sponsor, it means that I've got access to his network, right? It means that I've got access to Kenny's network. And for him to expose me to his network, I cannot go and embarrass him. So it means value and seriousness of everything is critical. But you gotta be intentional about these things. You gotta build it with intention, right? So these are the 3 layers of how you then build relationships within the organization and outside the organization, so that you can then now begin to shape your, what do you call again your, I nearly said character, it's not character. What do you call? In marketing language, your brand. Jesus. I'm looking for brand, I'm struggling. So this is how you begin to shape up your brand, to build your brand in and outside the organization, right? Before I move on to the next slide, I want to ask us to cast our minds back. Remember there was a conversation we had here about LinkedIn and the power of LinkedIn. I think we missed something on that day that we should have raised. LinkedIn can work in your favor and it can work against you, especially if you work for an organization, a big organization. If you go on LinkedIn and go oversell yourself as an individual, that will work against you in an organization, because they will say that this one is in the marketing of themselves and they probably want to leave the organization. How you then make sure that LinkedIn works in your favor is that you link your post and your stuff to the organization and you give credit to the organization. if you work for a big organization. Of course, if you run a business, then it's obviously the business that you do it. So you don't go there and try and overdo yourself, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah. It helps in the organization seeing you to say, this person is promoting the organization and they are linked to therefore automatically the organization sees you as a leader of the organization. Why? Because you're able to influence the culture within the organization through your social media presence. Does that make sense? Okay. I thought maybe let me just throw that in because we hardly we didn't speak about this. So here again, so this is something that you gotta do very, very, very intentionally, right? In you going through the process of, I need to solidify and build my brand within my stakeholder value, or within my stakeholders in the organization at varying levels. You need to be very deliberate about who's your sponsor. You need to find a sponsor, right? You need to find a sponsor. You need to identify them, and the sponsor will go in rooms for you and speak for you in your absence. So effectively, the sponsor will expand their corporate credits on your behalf. So they will drive opportunities and help you to succeed in the organization. So they will, if there's maybe a point where in the initial thing, guys are sitting around the table, they're talking about who should be promoted, and your sponsor is there, and somebody says, no, but I don't think, Zuko is doing ABC. Your sponsor will step in and say, no, but guys, hold on, I know Zuko. Actually, what you're saying is not really right, but then Zuko actually does this. Then he can sway the outcome of the meeting or the outcome of the discussion for you. That's your sponsor. But again, in the same vein, a sponsor will not give you their time and expand their credits or the corporate credits for you if you don't bring value to them. So what is the value? So you gotta then, as you identify the sponsor, you then need to know what their problems are or their pain points are and help them. Volunteer to say, look, I know you're working on this particular project. Before you even ask for sponsorship, I know you're working on this particular project. Let me lend a hand, and then I'll drive that project for you, and then I'll execute with excellence. And then once you execute it with excellence, because of you've solved something for the guy or for the lady, they'll bring you into their fold, and they'll fight for you. So that's how you get a sponsor, right? Then a mentor. You gotta have a mentor. So a mentor is somebody also who you engage. I'll share this the presentation. I've got the Oxford definitions of the difference between the sponsors and the mentors, because sometimes so mentors are effectively just your career guides. So they'll teach you about skills that you need to have and so forth. So they're there to train you in what you do. Right? You gotta have a mentor. So select a mentor for yourself, or mentors, because you may need several. That will then help you deal with certain things. If you're not, that great in what do you call stochastic mathematics, whatever it is, right? And you're dealing in that space, somebody is great at doing that. Get closer to them, let them teach you so that you can then do your work well or deliver well. Then you've got also the parts where you then have your internal feedback channels. Some organizations call them 360 feedback, and then you've got your client feedback. So your engagements with your sponsors, your mentors, the feedback sessions you're getting, client feedback that you're getting, the feedback that you're getting through those three stakeholder pillars will then inform and help you to shape the training, formal or informal, that you require as you then develop your career. Because as you get feedback, again, that's why I said we can talk about this and then it can sound nice, but then once you get feedback and you don't implement, you're not going to grow. It'll be nice information, right? It'll come in this side and then come out that side, and then tomorrow you're still dealing the same issues, and then you're going to end up being depressed, anxious, and so forth, because of you not using your full capacity that you have. So get feedback, implement, identify what you, from a formal perspective, what do you need. But let me go ahead, because this, I think, will tie nicely with this. So here, what you want to do is you got to define what the transition process for you to get to the final destination looks like. So what do you want to become? I want to become a CEO of a company, right? Okay, what does it take to become a CEO of a company? You speak to a CEO of a company so that you understand what it takes to become a CEO of a company, but also the people around you that you are dealing with. Engage with them so that you say, but what are my weaknesses? What are the things that I need to work on so that I then come out on the other side cooked, if I may use that, right? Or well cooked. So as you have defined the journey that you want to take, then it says, okay, for me to get there, I maybe need to do my MBA. I need to do an executive leadership. From a formal training perspective, what does it take? Maybe I need to go to Oxford, right, for 2 years, or I need to go to Duke University, whatever it is, or local, right? I want to go to Stanley, right? Huh? Henley, right? I want to go to Henley and do something. You are intentional, right? You know what this is about, and you are discussing that with your line and the organization, because it's written. It's there. You communicating. I want to be a CEO. I want to run a business, and therefore, the feedback that I've received, formally and informally, it means that I'm lacking here. I'm gonna plug in. I'm gonna plug my gap this way. Okay, what are the informal things that you need? So if you want to run, for example, a trade finance business, as in my world, you need to know what ICC is all about, as an example, right? You need to understand how does cash management business work. You need to understand what custody is, so that you can sharpen your skills, so that when you're sitting in boardrooms or when you're sitting in meetings, people don't come and tell you stories and you don't know what they're telling you, and then you run in the business. So you better know what they're talking about, right? And then what type of coaching do I need? Because there's formal coaching and informal coaching, right? So there's informal coaching, you've got the mentorships, the executive mentorships or coaching. So you can get a coach. Companies can allocate a coach for you, right? And the coach will tell you the truth about you. And those sessions are always not nice, but then they leave you nice, if that makes sense. They will tell you the truth. If you're coming and then you are, they say faffing around. I'm trying to find words here. In corporate we can say stuff. So I'm at the pulpit here. I'm respecting the spot that I'm standing on. So if you faff around a lot, they'll tell you that, but we agreed on the following actions that you're going to execute, but then you haven't. So you expect to get anything out of this thing? Yeah, right. They'll guide you. Registered bodies that you may want to register with, and so forth. Again, all of that is based. You use it as information that then helps you now to craft the journey or the path that you need to take going forward as you want to now expand your career, right? Or you want to grow your career. You got to be intentional. This has to be communicated. On a quarterly basis, you review. Where am I? Where are we? What are the things that I need to work on? Did I commit whatever that I committed on the previous month? Did I deliver on? If I didn't deliver, why? Right? What are the things that I got to do? So I spoke to this piece. So again, I shared this as well on the podcast. We talk about elevator pitch, right? And a lot of people don't know how to think about it or what to do. Or maybe let me pause it. Do you know what an elevator pitch is? Anybody? What is it?
How you get someone to understand what you're doing in this time frame that it takes you to get from the bottom to the top floor.
Yes, sir.
Concise.
Yes, sir. So, short, punchy, impactful conversation with the senior guys in the organization. So, meaning, this is what you got to do. Document your successes. Write them down. Write down your successes. As you win, you write them down. Like we do when we journal, right? Actually, I remember having a conversation with Karabo during the week of prayer. I said to him, because I was thinking about this, right? I said to him, Chief, how powerful will it be that maybe 2 years down the line, you've been journaling all the prayer requests and the answered prayers, and then you are on page 360, and all of them have been answered. How would your relationship with God look like then? Think about it. You've got a book full of answered prayers because we've been documenting everything, and He's answered them. It's powerful, right? And then when somebody comes and says, who is this God that you pray to? You can just throw that book at them and not say anything, right? By the way, anyway, this is just for you to be able to synthesize what you do on a daily basis. Because of you've written it down, you can then bring it down to somebody who you can have a conversation for about 30 seconds or call it a minute. What do you do? How are you achieving that? And what difference are you bringing to the organization? And then, by the way, I'm interested to know your pain points or what I can help you with in that conversation, so that you hook them in, because of you've said to them, I'm very useful in that short space of time. I'm very useful, but then I'm keen to know what are the things that you're dealing with, so that can I set up coffee with you? You are in the CEO's diary tomorrow. Done. When you get there, because we already told him what, he doesn't have to worry about, I'm talking to somebody who's valuable to the company. Now he's now giving you his problems, how you can help him solve them. You are in his diary. Done. Promotion is coming. If you deliver. Yeah? So be deliberate about writing this stuff down. It's important. Also in interviews. Because interviews, they will ask you, why should we hire you? Right? Abu Mosa will be sitting on the other side on the panel and say, Chief, tell us, why should we hire you as opposed to this person? And if you have not written this thing down and made it clear in your mind, you're not going to be able to articulate very clearly what you deliver or what you've delivered. So you got to be intentional about these things, right? Short to medium term, So these are the targets that you gotta then say, okay, these are my wins. This is next now. What I need to deliver on. Next 12 months I'm gonna do this. Next 2 years I'm gonna do that. Next 4 to 7 years. But then that is also aligning to the path, this path here that you said you're gonna do. So they need to talk to one another. The things that you gotta do, they need to talk to this journey here. And it needs to talk to this process of refining you, molding you, as you then journey on the path of your career. So I've defined what a mentor and a sponsor is. I think I've kind of sort of summarized all of that, right? But I wanna speak about this because the challenge about most of us as Christians, and that's why I was giving you the 3 texts at the beginning, particularly the 2 texts around Jeremiah, as well as Philippians, is that you need to apply godly principles in your work environment as opposed to worldly principles, the bottom line principles that pressure us to compromise on the value that is in God. So in the context of doing all of that I've shared now, you then need to use this thing as a yardstick, right? Because in the kingdom, we define the following things, right? We achieve material success. That is in the rules of the world. Material success equals to a house in Houghton, a house in, Camps Bay. I want a house in the Swiss Alps, whatever. That's my success. I've got a Bentley, I've got da-da-da-da-da. And to get there, I will bulldoze, I'll do whatever that needs to do to get there. But then, again, from a God side, you have to serve a purpose. So in your world, in your space right now, what purpose are you serving? So you got to define that for yourself. Right? There's something that it recently hit me. It might not make sense to some of you, and I hope I articulate it appropriately or correctly. So the task that the pastors do here on Sabbath of converting people, it's a task that they have once a week. Right? They come here once a week and they preach. And they do it with everything they have in them. But the task I have in converting people is Monday to Friday, in the space that God has allocated me to. Does that make sense? Meaning that how I show up at work, I have to glorify God in everything I do. And therefore, that gives the opportunity for those who are observing to believe and trust in God, that indeed this God that this guy prays to is a good one. So effectively I've got 5 days to make impact for God. Right? Somebody was asking me the other day, and I think Bible Justice, who was preaching here sometime, they said, this guy puts a Bible next to his desk, and I think you've heard that story many times. It allows me to have a conversation about God. Somebody will come and say, Chief, why you put this thing here? I'm like, yeah, you want to talk about it? Sure, let's go to a room. I'll tell you about it. I make impact, but that you add the quality of work you do. Because people will look at you and the character that you are and what you stand for, and they would want to listen to you. But if you don't actually do all of this well, and then you've got a Bible there, you want to talk about a Bible. But you get what I'm saying? So you gotta be so refined in what you do So that when they ask you, you say, no, but this is the thing that is doing all of this that you see. That's the impact for God. All right? So we serve a purpose. What can I get? That's the world. What can I give? Or how can I give? That's who we are. We serve. We pour out, because as we pour out, He fills us in. I get it? We pour out, He fills us. So we give. The world says success is called madibs, or equals to madibs. Madibs, you know what madibs are? I get it? I could have said dollars. We are in South Africa. Madibs is money, rands, machangura. I'm from Pretoria, so I can say that, right? So machangs. But then for us, success or significance equals to people. So you lean into people rather than money. Lean into people. So if you're a leader, and this is what I subscribe to, the definition of success for the roles that I have is I must have made a great impact in the people that I lead to succeed and excel in what they do. If I cannot do that, I'm not a leader. So again, I'm using God's principles because in doing that, He is with me. I cannot fail. Does that make sense? And then the other one, we live to please people. That's the other side. Keep up with the Jones. Umusu uthenga imini Cooper kusasa nami ngiyayithenga. This person moves into this neighborhood, nami ngiyayifuna. Right? But when you live to please God, imagine you are living to please this being that is in control of time, matter, and space, and you can take time and reverse it and do whatever you want with it. You're pleasing this person. Would He leave you stranded? So you cannot fail in your career if you apply these principles, and if you are intentional in how you navigate the landscape. So you apply godly principles. You are intentional about how you build your career. You wake up with purpose because you know what you need to do. So I won't read all of them. I'll share the slides. But what I want to just highlight is that it is possible, because there was a question around, is it possible to be successful as a Christian in the bottom line world? It's actually made for us. It is made for us, because what these guys who are chasing these things, they can't leave a legacy. They can't. They're saying that as a leader, people will remember you by how you made them feel. It's such a real, it's so real. What I do for you, I can give you bonus for $1 million and you go and box it tomorrow. That's not going to make an impact as far as our relationship is concerned, or the impact that I live in your life. I would actually have made a worse decision for you. Sometimes actually firing you could be the best thing that I've ever done, if that makes sense. So guys, sometimes, and again, I'm digressing a bit, but I'll come back. There was a comment, say, my boss is doing this. I'm like, we forget whose we are. We can't. God runs the show. He runs the show. So if your boss is giving you tough time and all of that, and then just because of they want to be spiteful, okay, let's see, Chief, where you're going to end up. Because he will never leave you stranded. I can tell you, guaranteed. Or if he allows it to happen, it means that he's actually molding you and bettering you. There's no lose for you in either way. Because by the time you're going to end up, where you're going to come out on the other side, when you're going to come out on the other side, you're probably going to be your boss's boss. And I've seen that happening live, by the way. It does happen. Okay. So, further tips, and I've shared this book with those who I've dealt with. Someone has that book now, sitting right there at the back. A book by Larry Julian. It's called God is My CEO. It was a present from my wife when I moved from Nedbank to Standard Bank. And this book has made a huge difference in my life, because now when I don't get the promotion, when I don't get the salary increase, when I don't get whatever that I want, I don't actually take it out on my boss because they're not my CEO. I take it out on the owner himself, and I deal with him. So he defines things for me. Right? So God will give you a purpose, right? So here I'm just trying to highlight some of the nuggets, because of that's what the book is all about. It says, how do I find meaning and purpose in life? These are difficult questions, hard questions. But then it says, find God's calling for you and find your purpose, and you'll find your purpose. And that's true. It's simple, but if you lean into it, you will find it. Right? It says, how do I define success? Again, expand your definition of making money to making a difference. Again, the issue of significance that I've just shared now. Right? Courage. How do I do the right thing when I'm pressured to do otherwise? I love this one. It says, walk with God, encourage, lean into God. With everything, He will never disappoint you. Lean not in your own understanding. There's a one that says, tough decisions, right? It says, what do I do when faced with choosing between a bird and a worst one? Bird and a worst one. Seek God's wisdom, turn to Him. Bad problem will turn into a good solution. So these are some of the principles that you can apply in your daily walk, in the journey with God, in the journey of actually growing your career, and you'll succeed. What do you call? Winning or success. Success is guaranteed. I said successful is guaranteed. That I was going to show that I'm from Hamaskaral indeed. So success is guaranteed. You will not lose. So I wanted to share this, but maybe before I do this doesn't show. Let me forget about the detail. There's too much details. Who knows what VUCA and Bani is? Those who have done their MBAs will know the language. Say we are in the VUCA world, Bani world. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think my understanding is VUCA is just a terminology that was coined to explain an environment, a business landscape that is unpredictable, that is with too many variables that are at play, which has to be factored in making any considerable business decision. And that helps you to understand the landscape better and put the necessary measures in place so that you can navigate business.
Yeah, that's it. So what VUCA stands for, it says volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That's what it is. Right? It was coined after I think it was the first, in 1980s, post Cold War. So effectively, the sense of Bani and VUCA, and Bani means brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. So all of these are what we're living in today in the context of business. And I think just in general anyway, right? Because things today, we are okay, and then Trump says, no, I'm imposing 30% tariff on South Africa, right? And then before we knew it, there's a credit crunch or liquidity crisis in Mozambique. They can't pay because of they defaulted on the dollar loans, etc. Right. So all of these things are happening. So be plugged in. So the message here is, in the context of all of that, be plugged in current affairs as well, right? So that you then begin to understand the impact of these things in your organization, what that potential looks like, and then also come up with solutions that may help the company to avert trouble ahead. Then you build into that. So if you then do all of, you kind of sort of not interested in the industry that you are in, you're not reading the current affairs, and you're not going to add value, you're not going to protect the company to the changes and the volatility that comes, or the volatile environment that we are operating in. So that will help you. So be plugged in. That's simply the message I'm saying, is that if you're on social media, don't just follow cars. For those who follow cars, or follow makeup, right? Whatever it is. Try and figure out, when Trump says 30% tariff, what does 30% tariff mean? Right? Take it in, pause, take it in, and say, actually, it may mean that if this guy is imposing 30% tariff, South Africa, and I'm in the car industry right now, and then it's combustion, South Africa may redirect their imports to EV cars. And if I'm in that industry, it means that, hey, guys, in the meeting, have you thought about the fact that when this guy imposes 30% tariff, we may have to change our operating model? Things like that. You can't just be a passenger, if that makes sense, right? I'm just adding to some of the things you gotta think about on a daily basis so that it helps you to win. And here's the model that helps a lot of leaders, right? Because leadership is tough, guys. I won't lie. Because you don't know what to prioritize, because everything can be important at the same time and urgent at the same time. But what you want to do is use the Eisenhower decision-making matrix or template. It says you've got an urgent matter and it's important. That's what you prioritize in your day. Do that. Right? And then you've got not so urgent, but then it's important. Then you put it in its bucket to say, okay, it's not urgent. I can do this first, the urgent stuff, and then I'll do the not so urgent later. Then you've got the urgent, but the not important stuff. You can delegate it, right? You don't need to do that yourself, right? And then you've got the not so urgent and not so important. Delete. Don't waste your time on that. This helps. Because when you're navigating daily activities, especially in executing within value chain, what do you prioritize and how do you prioritize? This model has proven itself over and over to be efficient for leaders or for anyone who's working. So use the model so that you're able to get through the day, at least with some style, if that makes sense. Yeah? So guys, that is me. And happy to take questions and comments. I don't know whether the silent means you didn't understand me or it was just boring. Okay. Yeah,
thank you for that. I think. Thank you. Thank you for that I almost said Coach Mdala. I think very, very importantly, it's this was a very mind-opening session for me. You've answered a lot of questions that I had, or I thought I had, right? In the way that you presented that. So thank you for that. I think one of the things that, for me, I realized now within the session that has kind of been a hindrance, is that, sometimes you do things and you go about things in a way that you think is what is needed, but you are following the wrong process, right? So one of the things that I noted as you were speaking, and the things that I picked up, is that we know we're supposed to work hard, right? What I've realized and what has affected me personally in my professional journey is that hard work without a plan goes nowhere.
Yes.
I think growing up the way that I grew up, it was just like, just work hard, bro, and then everything is going to work out for you. And then I realized that, actually, this thing is not working. Instead, I just got heavily discouraged.
Yes.
Not knowing that I did not have a plan in terms of being able to solve the issues, to say, okay, how do I get from this point to this point? So that has been extremely valuable. It's something that I wanted to share as well from my side, as something that I've gone through, and I've had to see the hard way. You end up really being discouraged, only to find out that you just needed to tweak a few things, right? And then secondly, with regard to, so you spoke first about, when you first started speaking about the stakeholder engagement model, that value chain of promoters, etc., etc., etc. I've gotten stuck at a point where, and it's also linked to me not having a plan, where I got this job, got employed, cool, whatever, and that was as a result of my hard work, not as a result of my plan, right? So I got a little bit fooled in that instance, and I was just like, oh, you see, here, I've gotten this job, but it was not on the cards, right? Cool. And then one thing that I want to share with everyone is also in your circle of kind of promoters, etc., 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 is don't rely on your line only. And I loved very much what you spoke about, to say that at the end of the day, we really need to know whose way we are following, who's our ultimate boss, who's our ultimate CEO, because in that we don't rely on necessarily what directly seems to be the answer, right? The person who's on top of you, whatever the case may be. Loved very much the thing you mentioned as well, to say that problems are the same, its application is different.
That's it.
So the person that can solve a problem is not always necessarily the person who you report to. It can be someone else in a parallel lane as well. So just a few things that I picked up. I don't really have a question. As I say, I think a lot of questions that I had, you managed to answer in
all of
what
that.
you went through. So thank you so much for that.
I love that. Here's the powerful thing about this too, especially about the relationship between you and your line. Because of you are navigating the world of your stakeholders so much that people around him are ranting and raving about you. Often your line manager does not have an option but to align with you, because he sees that if I don't align with this guy, I will be outside the circle. Because this is line manager proof, if that makes sense. It protects you from people that have bad intentions about you. Because you're managing it actively, his colleagues, when they're having coffee, they're They're like, hey, that guy from your team is brilliant, right? Their boss, they say, Zuko, brilliant. Your line manager, if he stands alone and say, I'm not sure, everybody will be like, maybe we've got a problem with how your judgment, right? So maybe he will try and say, I need Zuko by my corner, because when I'm seeing with Zuko, that light that Zuko has will brush over to me, or whatever that means, right? So this helps you in that way as well, to say, I need to elevate myself beyond an individual. So if you then navigate that land by dealing with the collective, you're done. Right? So you got to be intentional. That's what I'm saying, you got to be intentional. And the other thing about this is this, right? And I love what you said. We often find ourselves in jobs by accident, most of us. All of a sudden you've got this job just because of you're desperate, right? It's fine to be desperate, but again, this helps you, right? Hence, it's not a 3-year only plan, it's a 5-year, it's a 10-year plan, right? If the organization is no longer serving this vision, this plan that you have, you got to now pivot. So now you enter into that third layer of your advisors, your directors, to say, this thing, I need your network, help me move. Or because they know you, they bought into your story. They'll then go and then open up their network and say, I've got this young man who's brilliant. Can you? Then it helps you to, even from your organization, it becomes protected. Right? And it's a 5-year plan. You're clear as to what you do. You're no longer now dealing everyday issues, and just because of your manager said something, you then get upset and then you sit there for the month dealing the issue. No, but you've got a bigger plan. It helps you to elevate. You're no longer looking here, you are there. Okay, I hear you here, fine. Okay, how do I navigate this thing? But I'm going there. It helps you deal or call it break down what seemingly to be a big issue to a minor issue for you. Right? So you gotta be intentional. Hey, sorry. Abelung, I wanna say it. I will say it. Abelung, they are brilliant at doing this. What you were saying, I'm gonna do the best that I can do as far as this job is concerned, or my job will speak for me. That's the line we like, right? My job will speak for me. Yeah, it'll speak for you up until you are defined to be the job. Does it make sense? Because if I'm a great processor in a team, I will be a great processor, because if we remove this guy from here, we got a gap. Abelungu, on the other side, they come in, they do the job so that they get recognized. So it gives you at least a ticket to the table, right? Or at least get a seat on the table. You get there, you sit down, but then now you start playing this game. You're still doing your job better. You're still doing your job excellently, right? But then now you start navigating the landscape to say, as I'm doing this job, as it speaks to me, I want to control how it speaks for me. It's not brown nosing, as you normally say. Sorry, is that the right thing?
We'll allow.
Yeah, all right. So it's not that. You are actually communicating the value you're bringing into organizations. Where now, you're working hard, coming in at 7, leaving at 10 at night, and nothing is working. And you're thinking, but I'm busting my back here. And nobody's... Who are you communicating to? What you're doing? And how are you communicating? So that becomes a problem for most of us, because we're not trained. And that's why I'm saying, I so wish I came across this thing many years ago. So I'm sharing this with you guys. Whoever that you are starting your job now, most of you are still fresh. I mean, you just got in there. right? Use this thing, guys. It's a conversation. Implement, bandla. Go create this thing for yourself, and start implementing. And if you need to, it might not be exactly what I'm saying here, but what I'm trying to elevate our minds to think, or to kind of sort of start applying, is doing the best that you can do for the job, in the job. My data points are gone. So I'm saying, if you're excellent at doing your job, your day-to-day job, it's not enough. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not enough. So it has to be that you are there, you do your day-to-day job very well, and then you apply these principles. Then you'll succeed. Okay? Cool. No more questions? Thoughts?
Oh, thank you, my leader. I think that was very insightful, and thank you so much for making the time and putting the presentation together. I learned a thing or two. But I just wanted to also add to what you were just talking about, and probably just assist those who are still navigating as well. One thing that I wanted to touch on is work-life balance. Because I always feel like my brother just alluded to the point of working hard. Others work themselves down into the grave, they burn themselves out, number one. Number two, they neglect the important pillars of their own personal lives, which is family, which is friends, and no time to yourselves. That's why we have got issues of mental disorders in our society, because we don't have that work-life balance. I just thought that's also important to mention in our discussion.
You're right.
Because also another study was made, 1 in every 3 CEOs are depressed. So the role itself is demanding, is lonely, but that's a discussion for another day. The second thing that I want to touch on is the issue of salary and PACs. Sometimes we tend to, when we are interviewed and we are offered responsibilities and duties, we tend to negotiate from a place of poverty. Where if it's 5,000 more than what I used to earn, it's enough. But I've learned that way also in my career life as well, where when you get employed now, you have privy to the PAC brackets to say this bracket starts from this level to that level, and you see that you are sitting at the bottom of the pack, but you thought you struck gold, but you realize that you don't understand your value and your worth. I think it's also very important for a person to understand their value and their worth. It's very key and pivotal when it comes to negotiations of salary and PACs. The other thing that I just wanted to talk about is also when you want to be known or to be recognized for promotion, don't wait for the advert to go on the notice board or to be circulated for you to raise your hand that you're interested in the role or extra responsibilities. Participate in meetings and have a conversation with your boss. That comes in handy and is quite helpful as well. The other thing that I also wanted to mention is also something that happened also in my life is that plans change. You might have a CEO as your ultimate goal, and maybe you later learn that CEO might not tick the boxes that you have in your life.
Absolutely.
Pray about it and also embrace the change. What I wanted to do in my life when I started getting into career, I wanted to manage national parks. But literally and figuratively, I'm as far as I can be from national parks. But yeah, plans changed in my life, and I embraced it, and I'm happy with the changes that happened. Sometimes we choose certain things out of ignorance. When you start now doing an exposition into whatever you want to do and understand the pros and the cons, you do a cost-benefit analysis on whatever that you want to do, you later realize that it was not informed, and you change.
Absolutely.
That is acceptable, and we need to just understand that it's not failure, it's just you learning and growing and wisdom being given to you from God. And then the last thing that I just wanted to say, I think I touched on it, that leadership is lonely. So the higher positions that you look for, you get a bit lonely, because then now you have to be a leader. Also at the same time, you have to make very important and probably unpopular decisions in some instances, depending on your profession. But last but not least, your boss is not Prophet Isaiah who knows what you want or what you need. You need to be clear and also articulate what you expect from him because it's a relationship. And as a business, when you're employed, you're not doing the company a favor. It's a transaction. You are employed and you're giving a duty and responsibility. The business also has got a duty and responsibility in that transaction. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, my leader. Clearly, the points, the number of points, have clearly that the message is landed out of the number of points that you've just highlighted. It means that it triggered a lot of things, which is fantastic. I wanted to touch on the issue of work-life balance, as you were saying. I think what I've learned, and this is real, if you don't exercise and if you don't eat healthy, which is something that I've been not excellent at doing in the last couple of months, this is now my first week back at gym. Pray for me. If you don't do that, also is around, you will not perform well at work, right? So there were times I'm in meetings and I'm listening, but I'm not hearing. Why? Because of lack of sleep, lack of eating healthy, lack of exercise. That has a profound impact on you and how you show up in your organization. So eating healthy and making sure, the health message, guys, we take it for granted. It's big. So please, let's implement. And then lastly, the issue of negotiating, right? And I'm speaking to the guys. I can't speak on the side of the ladies. I'm biased. I'm sorry. Guys, when you negotiate not on your behalf, you negotiate on your behalf and your wife. Do you understand that? Meaning that your wife can sit at home and not work based on the negotiation that you had at work. That's how I've been negotiating. So if Ulwazi wants to stay at home and not work, I should be able to cover the family and maintain the lifestyle. When you negotiate, guys, no, they will hire. So I'm saying, and that's why I've said I'm talking to the boys now, the guys, the men rather. Negotiate not for yourself. You negotiate for your family.
So we must get wives, coach. That's what I'm saying.
I think the wise thing is you pretend as you negotiate, so that by the time she arrives, the nest is ready. Yes, sir. Yes.
Thanks. I think you've answered one of my questions, is balance. I've had issues where I focus too much on work and I end up being too tired for church, or I focus on God and I have less time to focus on my career. But you've answered the balance. Then my second question was, how do you manage dealing with other people who have negative traits? I've dealt with people who, for some reason, I gossip a lot with. I've dealt with other people who are just straight up negative and I become negative. So especially in the workplace, you spoke about promoting yourself. But how do you deal with characters that bring out the worst in you?
You cut them. And I'm not going to be philosophical about it. You cut them because you're not the only one that knows that they are negative. Probably your senior managers know that they are negative, and the more you hang around with them, the more they paint you in the same brush. Cut them. It's as simple as that. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation. You've covered a lot, but as someone who's just starting their career, right? You mentioned the thing of planning, having a plan of what you're going to do from in the next 7 years of your life. When you started your career, or maybe at this stage, when you were starting off, did you ever think I would ever become a CEO of something? Because at times, maybe not just for myself, right now it seems like a far-fetched dream, or maybe something that I don't think I would like to do, because maybe I'm like too scared of like, now I'm in charge of too many people's lives. I'd like to be in charge of myself only, I guess. So how do you go about planning that 7-year journey when you maybe don't even know what you actually want to be at that 7-year mark?
Okay, cool. So that's why I started with the text in Jeremiah 23, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, the plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. That's what God says about you. So that's your baseline, right? So if you use that as a baseline, you then say, what do I think is the coolest thing to do in this space? Where's some holy arrogance, if I can call it that? Say, what is the coolest thing that I think I could do this in this place? Because remember who your father is. And you say, 7 years I want to become a CEO. What does it take? Now you go and investigate. As you investigate, then you will get to know that maybe this is not what I want, as my elder was saying. Then you can pivot. But what I'm saying is that if you then go in with a level of intentionality, and you look at something and you say, I can make a difference. Remember, you have to serve a purpose. I can make a difference here. If I'm in the seat of the CEO, it means that I can then maybe redirect this company to do more good. For example, to build more houses for these people, and then let me go for it. Let me find out what this thing is all about. You do your research. You then in that process, you'll be cooking yourself, if that makes sense, and then you'll get to a conclusion to say maybe this is not for me, or this is for me. Then you go for it. You can become a CEO in 10 years. How old are you? Sorry. Oh, give me a range. Sorry, so for safety. You're 23. There are CEOs of major companies that started the role, and they are women like you at the age of 29. So 23 plus how many years? 6 years from now, there are people that have achieved that. So it's not possible. That's not impossible. Because your father is the one who gives you the role. So it's not impossible. Yeah.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you, Elder Mosa. First of all, shout out, thank you for coming to my podcast. So I learned a lot from Elder Mosa, and I think a week after we had a conversation with him, I started slightly implementing some of the things that I thought, look, this can be implemented, medium term. And it's kind of working. So I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
So just speaking to the point of implementation, that if we do implement, these things can work. I just have a question on, as a young person, right? I think there's a study I read, I'll reference it if someone needs to, that young adults now, early career phase, have about 85% less buying power or purchasing power than their parents about 15, 20 years ago. And that also speaks to the fact that money, salaries have not been inflation adjusted. So most of us have had to do work and a side hustle. You know my side hustle. I started it at the same time as I started working officially, so that was last year. It has been tough balancing the two
The two.
acts, right? So I just want to find out, what advice do you have for somebody who's pursuing both very intentionally, where sometimes you feel like the work is frustrating, not because you can't do it or you feel inadequate. You can do everything that you're assigned to do at work, but there's a feeling that you are shortchanging your service or purpose-related side hustle. That's currently my battle. Most times I have a situation where Monday to Friday, I dedicate it to work properly. Evenings, sometimes here and there, I'll have engagements for business, and my weekends are usually business. I don't touch their work on weekends. So I just want to say, like, how do you assist somebody going through that phase where they want to grow both of them very successfully and not shortchange the other? Thanks.
Okay. Good question. I've got two answers for that. The first one, and somebody also challenged me because of I kind of sort of forgot this a bit, and then they reminded me. We have 24 hours in a day, right? Usually we sleep for between 7 and 8, right? Healthy is 8. So if means that you've slept for 8 hours, let's say now you're left with 16, right? And your job requires you to do another 8, right? You're left with 8. So the question is, what do you do with that 8 that remains? Because your job is covered. That's one, right? That's the first. So you ask yourself the question. And then the second one is that model I showed you. In how you navigate, what is the most important thing now and what is the most urgent thing now? You gotta do that. If you can outsource some of the things that you do outsource. That will then eliminate a whole lot of things for you. One of the things that I was doing I took a break with the family, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. Yeah. I was trying to figure out how do I use AI more efficiently in my day-to-day. And what I discovered was crazy stuff, right? So there are those things that also you can implement where you use AI to write certain things for you. Or that world is deep and it's vast. You can use such tools. But what I'm saying is, at the basic level, you've got 8 hours, which is equivalent to the 8 hours that you do at your job. And actually, there's something that we need to accept, though, which is important, because again, these things are psychological. If you've got a side hustle and you know that because of it's a passion, and you need to accept that you're not going to be like everybody else. Often we kind of sort of in denial. We still want to have the joys when Uzuko says, hey, I'm going out for dinner with my crew, and kumnandi lapha, they're taking pictures and Instagram, da. Where now you must accept that you're not going to be in. You must accept that. Once you accept, then you can then start now dealing. Often we don't accept. And I've seen that as a cancer for most of us. We want good life, but often we want, when you're in the fence, you are this side, you are this side. Choose a side. Yeah. I hope I've answered you.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, in the early stages when you're trying to build those relationships with your line managers, the managers, and you're trying to build those good relationships so that you have influencers and sponsors and whatnot. And then you find an environment, a toxic environment, right? So one side is against another side. And then automatically, by virtue of being in a certain department, you're now against the other side. How do you navigate trying to get the others to like you, for lack of a better word, and then while not looking like you are going against the department that you're in? You know, how do you play the game then?
Yeah. Thanks. And thanks for asking that, because you've triggered something important that I forgot to mention. But I'll get to your question now. Is if you don't play politics in corporate, politics will play you. They will choose side for you, whether you like it or not. Especially the higher you go, that's the nature of the beast. However, it's how you play. That's the difference. There are people that will play the man, not the ball. By that, what I mean is, the organization normally, if it's a profit making, they exist for profit making, right? Let me park it here. I'm going to come back to it. One of the greatest advices I got, and I shared this with him as well, when I started working was, and from the hiring manager or the business area, they said, you know what, Mosa, if you want to come here and you want to be successful, respect umuntu, respect everyone. Don't play around with that. Respect everyone, irrespective of whatever views are there. Respect a human being first. Then the second advice was, from my mentor at the time, was, do not be fooled, Chief. When you come in this organization, everybody are looking out for themselves. Look out for your career. Right? So if there are camps, at the core of it all, everybody is trying to survive. They're trying to survive. For them to choose a side or to be playing a particular game in that is that they want to be seen, they want to be accepted, they want to be a part of the future of the business, I would think. So for me, what I was saying to you, how you build those relationships is that you build them from a position of value. How do I make your life easy? I don't care whether you're on the other side or you're on the other side, right? That's what I'm saying. It's how you play the politics. I'm coming in, and they must know that I'm neutral, right? Because if they start gossiping, you're not entertaining the gossip this side. If they gossip this side, you're not entertaining that gossip that side. Then people begin to then respect you for that. Uguti, in my absence, I know Uguti, Uspusi will not talk badly about me. Because when you start entertaining gossip of, when I come to you and then start talking and then you start, my ask silently or subconsciously is that, hey, in my absence, do you know what I mean? So your character has to be firm. That's why I'm saying godly principles. Character has to be firm. Then, because of you not entertaining anyone, it's how do I bring value to you? You probably are the one that God has sent you to actually unite those camps, by the way. It's possible. But then, manje, when you start now thinking with you are clever, excuse losing that language, and then you start now taking sides, now you're actually destroying the plan of God in that space. So neutralize yourself, play the value game. Play the value game. How? Because everyone in there, if you come to me and say, his pain point now, he's juggling two things. Somebody says, Chief, the stuff that you are dealing right now, I'll take half of it from you. How do you respond to that? And then they're still delivering at the rate or at the level that you expect them to deliver. You'll pay them if you need to pay them, right? That's it. Observe the politics, but don't play the game that is now premised on the worldly principles. You play the game on the basis of God, because of God is all about significance, and significance is about people. That's it. Okay.
I just wanted to speak about the beginning, just to thank you for the presentation. It came at the right time, because when I read Habakkuk 2 verse 2, when it says write the vision and make it plain, and then I just thought of how I should make it run for myself, that I may run as I read it, because I think I used to write my goals down, I think beginning of the year, but I'd forget to follow up because the pressure would be so much, and I'll forget to go back, and only after a while I'll see my book, oh snap, I wrote this, the goal 1, 2, 3, 5 goals, but then okay, only did 2, but there's 3 left, like, now I must follow these ones. So I thank you for bringing up this verse. And also, I feel like the more you write your goals and the more you go back, like every month I try to go back and I do remember, then you know what you're running after, you know what you write, what you're working for, whether it's your cause and your values, everything just comes in aligns in the mind. And then you know what you're trying to do is real, it's tangible, unlike when it's all in the head. And also another point that I think Leroy touched on, about people who are toxic in your life that you work with. In the industry that I'm in, it's got a bad rap. I mean, e-hailing on the side, just on its own, it's a lot going on there. So you get clients who come in, and passengers rather, who tell you stories and like, okay, and then I must be neutral, because I'm like, I need to get my 5-star rating, but I have a comment. I want to judge. I'm like, okay, cool, it's not judge. I need to get my 5-star. Cool. So I need to be neutral. It's very tough, but I've learned to manage that. And then here with IT, where we have suppliers who, some of them, you just know they're giving you off energy. You're like, okay, next time I'm not coming back here, your supplier, we get elsewhere. We got a group, I'll look for another supplier. So it's not been easy, but thank God for his wisdom that he's given me to know who to work with and who not to work with. Because some people are just toxic, you can just tell, you're coming here, you're being rude, I'm paying, I'm getting stuff from you, but you just not treating me like a normal person, like as if I'm adding value. Okay, cool, next time I'm going to someone else. So just thank God for his wisdom to allow us to know who to work with. There's some people that you just know, this person is just, we were friends, but now you're just not adding me in the direction that I want to go, you know? You're going to, one mistake, I'm going to go on the left-hand side, and I can't play the fence game for too long, because eventually you have to serve one master. So I feel like it's very true that you need to cut them off. If you can't cut them off, what I do, if we're friends, we just become acquaintances. I can still have your number on WhatsApp. You might need me for something serious, sure. But then if you're not going to be useful, I will block you. I mean, cutting off has now become an easy thing. But then it's not easy to get to that point, because now before, I was like, oh no, use. But now it takes time and experience. So I just feel like we need to write our goals down, like you said, and then work from that, because then God will inspire you to continue the journey that you listed down, because everything now on paper. So I'd like to thank Mosa for the presentation. It just helped me rather to go back and write things down and then be able to follow through.
You know, there's something that you said at the end. I'm trying to remember. I had a thought about it and it escaped me again. The e-hailing, the negative, you said? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just talking about when passengers that come through that are telling you things about e-hailing, like Uber, Bolt, how the industry is. So basically I'm like, okay, I'm trying to not judge the passenger because I hear where they're coming from. But now I want to educate them and not feel like I'm just loading information on them.
Sure.
Finding the balance was tough at the beginning.
Sure.
I think I even asked for advice from people, and eventually I came right.
Fantastic. Yeah. So what when you were saying that, it triggered. Currently I'm in the middle of reading a book called New Earth. I'm sure some of you have heard about it. New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. It's one of Oprah Winfrey's best books. Actually, it's the best book that she's ever read outside the Bible, right? It deals with the issue of ego. We all suffer from ego. Most of us, all of us actually, we suffer from ego. So, what it tries to help us, I'm not responding to your question as such, or maybe comment, but then it's a general comment around the freedom of realizing that sometimes when you realize that people, when they come to you as they project and they say stuff, and it's their thoughts are communicating, that has nothing to do with you. It helps you then to navigate the world also as you think and contemplate how you respond to situations or to people, and also how you speak to yourself. It then frees you up from that. Again, it's based on biblical principle. He references many texts, scriptures in the Bible. I would recommend that we look into it. It's also an audio book. Get that book. It will transform your thinking. Right? I'm not yet done with it, but the little bit of the taste I got, and I'm gonna go back. Probably it's a book that I'm gonna read from now. Probably every quarter I'm gonna go back to it because it's so deep and it's so dense. So please try and read that, and probably it will help us a lot as we navigate things about ourselves and when people say stuff to us, so that you don't have to take things personally and getting palpitations every day, right? You're on a traffic light. I see your hand. Traffic light, or somebody cuts you off and all of that. How you respond to that? Those things are critical. Anyway, let me leave it here. Masabiri. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hi. Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
So I caught the tail end of the presentation, but thank you anyway. And I've just picked up some nuggets on what you've been saying after the presentation. So the one thing that stood out for me is how do you present yourself in a way that once you do your work, then you're recognized for it, but not having it look like I'm only working so that I'm actually recognized, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So what strategy would you then implement in that in order for you to actually have that stakeholder engagement outside of your manager, so that, okay, so let me just give you a backstory. So my previous manager and I would have these conversations, and I'd always ask him, so he's a director, and I'd always ask him, how do you get to that? How do you then progress from that? And he'd always talk about, once you get senior, I don't know what's going on. Okay. Once you get senior, it's beyond the work that you do. It's about how you're contributing to different aspects of the business outside of the structure that you're in, right? So I guess what I would then be thinking about now is, how do I then do my work? Yes, but how do I contribute to the other businesses around us who aren't necessarily related to what we do, but not do it in such a way that it looks so deliberate. Does that make sense?
I hear you.
Thank you.
So, how I define, or how I would respond to that question is, I had to ask myself this question, right? I work for a bank, by the way, just as a background. What is the role of banks in society? Okay. Eh? Oh, yeah. Okay, you want to record the answers, okay?
I was saying banks' roles, what they do is they lend, invest money, and then manage people's assets.
Okay.
is to regulate the financial markets.
Okay. No, she's the one who's asked the question. So you can't. Oh, no. Sorry, I'm the one who's asking the question, but I'm trying to respond to the question. That's what I meant. Okay, banks in simple terms, and look, you've answered part of what we do as functions, but banks are there to lubricate the economic activity. So effectively, for economy to be able to be operational, we need to provide fund liquidity for that, and then take on liquidity so that we can then transfer it to somebody else who then needs it for economic activity. So we are lubricants, right? And now, in the context of the continent, right? I love this continent, by the way, the African continent. It is still seen as the last frontier, right? And me as a banker and doing what I do, I'm in trade finance. Trade finance is the leading product or offering that unlocks economies, right? Because you have to have the means of production, but then once you've produced, you need to sell. You either sell locally or internationally. I'm sitting there and I'm doing that for the continent. That's my purpose right now, from a commercial side. Yeah? So if I am extending my help to somebody else who's actually doing, if we look at the whole combination of what banks do, I'm actually enhancing the capability of the bank to move forward, right? Adding value to our shareholders, adding value to economic activity on the continent, adding value to Mam So who's actually knitting garments, who's able to now sell to Ghana, as an example, who then can create generational wealth for, that's my function. Why would I feel bad by extending help to somebody else? Does it land? So you are creating value, and that's what I was saying. Operate from a position of creating value. There's nothing wrong with creating value. Why would you want to hide you creating value? Because you don't want to be seen as a brown noser, right? That's what you are leading to.
Yes, it's more how do you communicate it in such a way that it's actually beneficial for you in the long run, for your career. So yes, you could do that, but how do you then make other people aware of what you're doing, so that when, for example, bonus period comes or promotion,
Maybe you missed it. Yeah. Let me go back to this thing. The tech team, the kind of sort of telling us it's enough now. I want to go back to a particular slide. So the communicating part, I had put it in documenting your wins. So there's a slide that speaks about jot down like you write in your journal, right, every day. So write the wins that you have. And in writing your wins, you're able to communicate when you're having conversations. A simple conversation like an elevator pitch. You've got a CEO coming into the elevator with you, right? And you say, by the way, I'm so-and-so. My name is so-and-so. I am part of this business. Sure. Not this one here, sorry. Okay, now we can move. So, successes, sorry. Yeah, right. My name is so-and-so. I'm in this business. I've been working on 1, 2, 3 things that I think are solving some of our problems for the organization. Because you have to know where the issues the organization is dealing, or what the issues the organization is dealing with. So this is my contribution to that, right? And you can even mention other areas where you're contributing, because often, because of the strategy of an organization is one, so everything has to converge at the top. So whatever that you do in this side adds to this thing so that the strategy becomes a reality. So if you then communicate that, oh, by the way, I'm doing so and so for this particular team, and I'm doing this for me, then this person, the CEO, CFO, cool, they're like, okay, we've got somebody who understands our business. And, they've got vested interest because they want to drive the success of our strategy. Then we are recognized in that way. And we're adding value. And it can't be a problem. It cannot be a problem. So that's how you communicate it, right? And you're not coming out and, arrogant, I'm a superstar. No. You're just saying, and usually for me, the elevator pitch, you gotta use it so that it's a hook for the leader to then hear your thoughts. Hook for follow-up, right? We're gonna have coffee. Then I'm gonna tell you more about my thoughts, but I wanna hear your thoughts as well. And as you hear the leader's thoughts, then you're getting into the space of strategy and all of that, and then you start now thinking differently in how you show up. So it can be a problem. Are you good? Sure.
Okay, so I actually don't know how to phrase the question that I want to ask, because it's a little bit sensitive for me and my work life. But I often find that the bigger the room, the smaller the gap, or the bigger the room, the higher the price.
The bigger the room,
the higher the price.
The higher the price, okay.
So I hear a lot of talks about climbing and accelerating your career and getting, but man, there's a bit of there's a peak that you reach, and you can, like, it's almost like a glass roof, you can see the rest of it, but you can't get past it. I'm in a very male-dominated industry and a very white-dominated industry. So typically I would be competing with white men or black men. And I find myself in situations a lot of the time where either I'm about to get this R5 contract, but then Mr. Mosa comes around and says, cool, you can get it if you give me R2 of that R5.
I know what you're talking about.
Either that, or the second one, which is the high price, is you'll be in a big room again. You feel like, my career is getting up there, whatever. And then Mr. Jacob will come and say, let me give you a little stroke on the cheek, a little rub on the back.
I know what you're talking about.
And you've got it.
Okay.
Or you've got it already, and you've put your name and you've signed everything, and everything is sorted, and you're mid-project. And then it's the little stroke on the cheek and the rub on the back. And now you're forced to back out of what you already thought was something that was going to accelerate your career.
Sure.
So I think that's the position I'm finding myself in, and that's why I said it's a bit sensitive, because it's like, man, I can see beyond the glass up there, that roof. I can see what's happening and what the top looks like. But because of what I'm willing to do or not willing to do, I'll never get there. So I don't know if that's a question.
Yeah.
I don't know how to phrase my question.
No. I think I'm with you. It's a proper, deep question there. So I want to share this one, right, before I come to your question, right? So the unwritten rules of the world says the end justifies the means. Get to the outcome regardless of how you accomplish it. But the godly way says the means justify the end. Do the right thing regardless of the outcome. Right, so I'm going to start there. So you cannot compromise your values over material stuff or anything like that, or even the success as we define it. That's a baseline. However, if you find yourself in a situation whereby there's definitely unconscious bias or conscious bias that exists because of male domination, etc., it doesn't stop you from saying, okay, please, you're going to go and represent me in that room. It's a trade-off. Everything requires trade-off. Everything requires trade-off at points. Because there are certain rooms that, for example, and I'm not downplaying what she's saying because of it's a reality, right? Male domination is a problem at times because of such issues. But there are certain times where I will ask my wife, Uluazi, to say, I need you to go represent me there. Right? For the sake of the outcome that is required, which is greater than the cause. So it's okay to say, Zuko, I need you. Get your best suit. I'm gonna prep you. Let's go into this conversation with these guys. They won't say, back rub, wara, because he's gonna punch him in his face if you were to do that. You know what I mean? You still get the outcome that you want, which is you've won the thing. But then, of course, whoever that you invite into that room, also you need to be aligned with you in terms of your goals, right? Because now you get them into the room, they get excited, and now they think they are you. So it's the trade-offs that you gotta sometimes apply, which is what I was saying, that the politics, if you don't play them, they play you, unfortunately. And it's a real issue, and it's hard, because what it says for you is that, am I not good enough to be in this space? And you don't want that because of your good. Yeah. Did I answer you? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. And I think just to add to that, Elder, I've also been caught in situations where I tended to find myself focusing on the fight and not the war. So there's also that we kind of need to consider. That there's a war, the war in this instance being the bigger picture of what am I trying to achieve. There's the fight, sometimes which is more on an individual basis. I'll take it from my perspective in terms of work, where I'm just like, if this needs to be said, it's my idea, I came up with it, and it should be heard from my mouth. And I will not tell my boss, and I will rather save it for that big meeting. In that big meeting, I will say the thing, but then still, now it's like I've jumped over my boss's head.
Correct.
My boss doesn't like me. So that's an example on my side, in terms of from a corporate side, right? But just echoing what you're saying, that and that's how I understand what you said in terms of advice, in terms of we must be very cognizant of the fact that there's fights and there's a war.
That's it.
And therefore, for certain fights, we don't need to get our hands dirty.
Correct.
We don't need to fight the system ourselves. There's ways around that can still protect us, and we can still get the eventual result that we want.
Well, that's it. I'm glad you said it, not me, the way you said it. And I will leave it there for safety reasons. No, you can say. Please speak. How are we doing on time? Are we still okay? Me, I can stand here up until 9 o'clock at night. I've got freedom. I've got freedom today. They told me that I can come back at 10, so it's fine.
No, I was saying the advice makes sense, but it's very tricky because you never know when you'll need to pull that card. So okay, just to be a very quick specific example.
Sure.
So you'll find a situation where they'll say, okay, looking for a young black female-owned company to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Correct.
6.
Yes.
You come, you pitch, you get it, right? And I was in a situation where I got it, and it's an international situation. So now we're on Zoom. Cameras are off. Talking, everything's nice. Right, okay, here's the deadlines, here's the what. Cameras go on. Let's switch at the end. Let's switch on the cameras so that we can see everyone, introduce ourselves. Switch on the camera. One person looks a bit shell-shocked, right? Looks a little bit confused. Anyway, fine, meeting carries on. At the end of the meeting, I get a call from the black individual who hired my company. Hey man, unfortunately, one of the French ladies who saw you there has asked that we remove you from the contract. Why? Oh, no. Please, I'm saying this off the record. Please don't say to anybody. That's what he said to me. I'm saying this off the record. But she did state that being a European female, from her experience, an African young female, is not capable of doing a project of this caliber.
Magnitude, yeah.
Right, of this magnitude. So you don't know when you're going to enter I wouldn't have known to say to somebody to go and represent me because everything was fine and we're all copacetic until we switched on the cameras. So I don't know, man.
Yeah. So here, look, I think also there's I'm going to reference this again. So there's where is this guy now? It's Larry Julian. Where is this? I think it's not here. But what I want to say to you, Mace, it's when you surrender everything to God, because that's where you get your bread and butter. He will sometimes remove you from some of the situations that may come masked in a sheepskin, but there's a wolf underneath. And it's okay sometimes to let those go. Because if it is yours, it is yours. It is yours. So I know it's painful, and I might be giving you a simple kind of sort of an answer that seems to be a bit blasé, but it is the truth that maybe the price that you were going to be asked after that, if you had gotten that thing, was going to be even higher. So as you lean into God, understanding ceases to be understanding, if you know what I mean. Right? So it's okay. In the context of business, right? For me, I mean, if I'm listening to what you say, the pitch or the requirement, we're looking for a young African black female. That's a requirement. You pitch, you meet all the criteria, you get there. Then the deciding someone says, no, but then I've got a problem with young African female. You know what I mean? There's something there that doesn't gel. So who does she want? Or who do they want? As an example. Right? I'm just using that as a response. So for me, it's the God does respond to us on our behalf, or He goes into extremes on our behalf so that He can protect us from the hyenas and the wolves that are around. It's okay. The wealth comes from Him. I don't know. Does it sound harsh? It is what it is. Because with me as well, I was saying to the guys before, if I don't get the bonus that I think I deserve or I wanted, it's not my manager, it's not the company paying me, it's God. Because He knows that if I give this rascal here 5 million today, if I give him 5 million today, this guy is going to destroy my daughter, as an example, right? Uzoya le excited and then end up divorcing Ulwazi. That's what I'm saying. And I have to be comfortable that the guardrails that God allows me to operate in, He knows best for me. Yeah. He is just. Right. So that's why you can't complain too much about salaries. It's not them, it's God. He knows that this one here. If I stretch this thing, So we'll hear about Uliroy. He was here somewhere. He was here. But manje, you know what I mean? It's you gotta. That's the truth, guys. That's the truth. Please.
But if it's okay, no, go for it. I spoke on it. Okay. I was about to say ladies first, but never did.
Yo. Guys, we need to arrive home, all of us.
Anyway, my point, I think I just wanted to add to what Masped was talking about. When you read Proverbs chapter 10, verse 22, it says, "The Lord the blessings of the Lord brings wealth, right? And He adds no trouble to it." Right? So just also a quick testimony from my side. I used to manage hotels. I was managing this other hotel in KwaZulu-Natal, and the Pharaoh that employed me the owner of the hotel that employed me to manage the hotel back then agreed on me not working on the Sabbath, right? So that was in black and white. The contract was signed, everything. Then another Pharaoh arrived that did not know Joseph and bought the hotel, right? And then they had that this guy does not do anything on the Sabbath. He's not there. He's not present, and everything. And funny enough, we had two ministers in the hotel that one Sabbath, and I was doing Sabbath school. Anyway, so long story short, the Pharaoh was not happy with my absence. You know, Saturday being a hive of activity at a hotel, you know, if you're familiar with the hotel setup. Anyway, so the life was rough, right? When he realized he can't do anything, it's contractual, but he just made my life, you know, misery at that point in time. I tried my level best, I prayed, I did everything under the sun, but he was coming in stronger, right? Long story short, eventually I decided to resign because I realized that we are not going anywhere. It's becoming toxic. And also with my that level as well, and the responsibility that I had, I didn't want to tarnish my name or his name or whatever the case might be. So I left. And then I had a conversation with God to say, you know what, I kept the Sabbath, I did everything that was right, and. The list was long. And 2 years down the line, the hotel closed.
You see?
So you know, at that time I was in a dilemma and I was unemployed for almost 8 months. I started my side hustle and that thing, you know, that kind of vibe. And I asked myself, why, God? I did everything that you had asked me to do. I sacrificed, I put my life on the line, and you know, that kind of thing. And even my family was like, well, you are the craziest person we've ever had. But anyway, but when I look back and reflect, God had a purpose. If I had hung on in that toxic environment, break the Sabbath, and then 2 years down the line, I was going to lose my job anyway. So you later realize that it's better to stand up right for which is right, even if it means or it looks like that's the biggest loss that you ever. Probably that was the biggest win that you've had in your life.
Absolutely. God wants to make us holy, and holiness requires sacrifice. It's never warm and fuzzy, good feeling thing. Sometimes He removes us from situations so that He can purify us. You know that I think I've been sharing the story about the silver and the silversmiths, right? They crank up the fire so that they can take out the impurities, so that we can reflect the image of God at the end of it, or at the end of the day. So He does it sometimes. Pulls a fast one, and you're like, hey, Chief, you said I must be here. Your time is over. You need to go somewhere else. That's true. Thanks, my leader. Okay.
So,
what's up?
Like I was saying, right?
Yeah.
With all due respect, so it doesn't mean what I'm going to say now is going to be disrespectful anyway.
No. Please go ahead.
With all due respect, like
yes.
the examples that were shared with, like I'm just looking at a different example, right?
Mm.
Like we should be ethical. We should work according to God's principles. And so I was wondering, if I were to take someone else to represent myself for a specific instance or a specific opportunity, would that be ethical? Would that still be according to God's principles? One. Secondly, it would be strategic, right? Consider strategic, right? And although I was just thinking based on my example, right, on my experiences, like I've tried that before. I thought, okay, because I've realized it actually does work to a certain extent, unintentionally. So I was working with a lady, and I said, oh, you can come with me to this meeting, right? And I realized the reception was a bit different because she was with me, you see. And she had nothing to do with the project at all. She just happened to be with me that day, and for example, right? And I realized, oh, let me try this again. So I tried it again, but it never worked. It actually got worse. Because then I wasn't really being like genuine with it. I was like, oh, I'm gonna use this opportunity that she has within her power, right? Because she has that power to open a door that, for example, like don't send a man to do a woman's job in a way. So what I started to learn, like having a lady, not even the same person, like for example, right? And then she started getting like to her head, like, you see, prettiness, like beauty, like you see, and like the whole conceited thing, right? And I realized that actually she's more than anything going into this for the wrong reasons, right? One, and she, like you were mentioning, like, hey, just now she gets it and she just decides to do her own thing, right, with it, right? But also that the deal never actually went through, you see, and I'm realizing that maybe it wasn't the fact that I brought her with me that made him speak a bit more, right? I wasn't gonna get through that door either way. It wasn't mine. It wasn't. Our doors weren't going that way. Our lane wasn't that direction. Even though I brought her, and I thought, oh, okay, this is our lane now. When we get to the intersection, we realized that no, actually, with or without her, we never got it. We never went through, right? So I was just wondering, like, do we have to do these type of things, like in a sense? Of course, it's strategic, but wouldn't it be like what we call BE fronting, where we have fronting companies there to represent a specific company so they can get the job, but the person who's representing doesn't do anything. They don't bring any real tangible value or intellectual value to the entire value chain.
Yeah, thanks for surfacing that, because I don't think what I was saying is exactly that, but it borders around the same thing, right? So integrity is everything. You have to uphold your integrity, and you can't do something and be disingenuous in your departure point. So I think the point that maybe I'll start with Macy's point and I'll come to your point. So the point that Macy's talking about, and please correct me if I misunderstood, is you have to structure your approach in a way that protects you, knowing the optics or the issues that may arise, right? It's still her company, it's still her ownership. She's taking Uzuko along to the meeting so that there's no conversation, but then he speaks also together in this particular company. They're dealing the issue together. Sometimes if she's not available, she can send him to represent her. So representation is not, it's not substitution. That's what I was saying. There's no substitute. Where you're saying is that you going into a situation knowing that if it is you who's speaking, you're not going to get favors, therefore you're going to play the system. No, you don't play the system. You go in there honestly. You say, this is me, but I'm with this particular partner, or I'm working with her. For me, I think that's the difference. Does that make sense?
Yeah, now I
Okay. Great. All right. I'm seeing. Who's complaining? Time. Raphael, I see you are talking there. I don't know whether you got a question or what. Rafi. Yes. I'm saying I see you talking there. You have got a question or comment?
Yes, I do. So I beg to differ on what you're saying. She can take him to a meeting. Where is God in that context?
Yeah.
Are we not faithful that God can give her that what she wants without him being there? So
Okay.
we are afraid that not really.
No, no. Look. I think yeah, context is important. Yeah, I think he said it. Context is important. So there are certain things that you know that you have to be wise. That's why we've got wisdom, right? You have to be wise around them and be deliberate about your actions. And where you need support, because one can argue, you can take it to the extreme and say, I'm not going to study and then I'm going to pass. And then somebody says you failed. You say, oh, where was God? Right? You still got to study. So what I'm saying is that the argument or the view that you're bringing forth, you can take it all the way to the left, or you can take it all the way to the right. But then I think everything is situational, and God speaks to us. If the advice is, yes, take him, it's fine, there's no issue. And he doesn't solve the same problem the same way over and over, because he's God.
So that means you need to ask God that.
You're always asking God, because every move you make as a standard.
Before she goes to you, she needs to talk to God about it.
Okay. I'm gonna. Okay. Every day, remember what I said, the principles, the values that you have to apply here have to be godly. Meaning that you are applying and you're engaging with God every day as you wake up. He is guiding your steps. That's your baseline. It has to be your baseline. But also you need to apply wisdom in the context of what God has given you. On.
Sorry. I probably want to go home the most. I just wanted to make a quick comment. When it comes to, I think, because, understanding our socioeconomic context, a lot of us are black, a lot of us, well, all of us here today, but it's probably our first time going to varsity, first time working as a professional, first time trying to build a career, not just get a job. And these things are new for all of us. And I think there are so many things that can be supportive that we're not necessarily aware of, as well as understanding ourselves, finding ways to build resilience within ourselves so that we can even be productive. And so in terms of getting help, it's a bit difficult because it can be expensive, right? Like paying for a helper, etc. But there are things that you can do, like getting a robot vacuum, or investing in a countertop dishwasher because you don't have space for 2 appliances. Countertop dishwashers are amazing.
Which brand?
Things like figuring out quick meals in an air fryer, which also then helps with the health thing. But also, finding a life coach, going to therapy, seeing an occupational therapist so that you understand your personality, particularly because that doesn't mean now that like you're set in whatever, but it means you know which skills you need to build, and which maybe necessarily have to work hard just to do maintenance. Those kind of things can help, particularly where with the point of what if there are things that you're like, I don't want to do that, or maybe I don't like people. Even if you don't like them, at the end of the day, your trajectory might require you to do so, and finding ways to understand that from a perspective that makes sense to you because of your own personality or view or whatever, so that you can maximize not only what progress you can make in career, but also the contribution that you can make or the value that you can bring, whether it's to business or to the world or to your family and community. So I think those things are good once-off investments, as opposed to necessarily things that you have to maintain, like paying a helper every week and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes. So bring a level of efficiency in how you organize yourself. That's effectively the message. All right. Guys, I think, can we park it here? It's 5 past 5. So thank you for coming through. I so wished it was not only the youth, because these things are not necessarily only for the youth, because there are people that have been working for 30 years and still have not figured this out. They're still struggling. They're still getting caught up in day-to-day politics and so forth, which sometimes create stress, anxiety, depression for many. So, but anyway, I'll share the slides. You've got the slides. Where is Yuval? Has the slides. He'll share the slides with you. And if you do come across something and you want us to expand on it, let's do so. And continue to pray for me as I navigate the world of banking. All right, who's going to close in prayer for us? The mic, where's the mic? Thank you, sir. Please pray.
It's like, it's a CEO.